Hello and welcome to Books for Us. I hope you're all doing well on this lovely spring day. Hoping everything's going all right for you. It's actually still a little snowy here in Cincinnati in this late April day, which is astounding to me. Anyways, moving on, something a little more exciting than the weather. Today we're going to talk about Work Like Any Other by Virginia Reeves. So for those of you who are new, I'll briefly break down how this is going to go. I'm going to give a quick synopsis of the book, recommend it on a scale that ranges from see for yourself to holy crap, you need to read this right now, and then I'll read a short excerpt. As always, the first person to show interest by emailing me at booksforuspod@gmail.com will have my copies sent to them. All right, guys, let's just jump right in and talk about Work Like Any Other by Virginia Reeves. I'm just going to give you a quick synopsis like I mentioned. Roscoe T. Martin is obsessed with power, and not in the sense you may think. He reluctantly moved out of town onto his wife's family's dying farm in rural 1920s Alabama. Farm work is not for him. His wife and son are distant. Roscoe's only desire is to get back to his old job as an electrician. After a row with his family walking amongst the corn, Roscoe decides the only way to save the farm is to siphon power from the state and build his own lines. His idea brings fortune until the state lineman has an encounter with Roscoe's makeshift lines and dies as a result. Roscoe is charged with manslaughter and is now an inmate in Kilby Prison, where he will spend 10 to 20 years. So, on my scale, I would give this a highly recommend or a highly recommend plus. I had a really hard time deciding between highly recommend and holy crap, you need to read this right now. For something to reach holy crap, you need to read this right now, it needs to blow my fucking mind. And I thought this was really good, but wouldn't quite say it blew my mind. The language is simple and lyrical. It's a fantastic read as far as I'm concerned, and I'm not going to reveal anything else about my opinion because I just want you to form your own. And like I said earlier, I'm going to read a little bit of the beginning of Work Like Any Other. I do not have permission from Virginia Reeves, nor do I have permission from Scribner Press. This is their work. I just want to share it with you guys. Work Like Any Other by Virginia Reeves. The electrical transformers that would one day kill George Haskin sat high on a pole about 10 yards off the northeast corner of the farm where Roscoe T. Martin lived with his family. There were 3 transformers in all, and they stepped down electricity that belonged to Alabama Power, stepped it down to run on new lines along a farm fence, then on through the woods, then straight to the farmhouse in the barn. Roscoe built the transformers himself. He built the lines. He did not have permission. The idea for running in power arrived nearly a year before the power itself. He should have been eating dinner with his family, but he hurt his son and made his wife cry, so he was walking the cursed land his wife had forced him to. He took the path through the North Corn to bring him close to the new power lines along Old Hyssop Road. The corn was to his hips, still young, and the giant grasses brushed his fingers, a sickly feeling that set him shaking out his hands as if to unseat an insect. Of all the crops on his wife's land, corn was Roscoe's least favorite, something obscene in its size and growth, in its stalks and blades and seeds. Everything too big. His wife and son had been reading together on the sofa, an oil lamp on the tall table behind them lighting the pages. When he'd first courted the boy's mother, Roscoe had read with her, but she shared books with their son now. They hadn't looked up when Roscoe came into the room. "What are you reading?" he asked. "A book," his son mumbled, snuggling closer to his mother. Roscoe peered at the cover. "Parnassus on wheels, huh? What's it about?" Annoyance showed on Marie's face. "It's about a woman who owns a traveling bookshop. She has a brother she's sick of caring for." Her voice was weary, as though she were talking to a troublesome child, shirking his lessons. The brother refuses to work the farm. She seemed to recognize her overstep before Roscoe reacted, offering him some kind of conciliatory gesture. an uncertain stretch of her hand that he slapped away. Gerald sank deeper into her side. "I am not the ugly one here," Roscoe said to her. "You knew I wasn't going to become a farmer." She'd reached for his arm again, but the anger came quick, the way it did, pushing him taller, shooting him toward that ceiling her daddy had plastered himself. Roscoe wrenched the book from Marie's hand and threw it across the room, where it broke a ceramic plate that hung up on the wall. "Go upstairs, Gerald," Marie said, but Roscoe leaned down into his son's face. "You're reading about a lowlife like your pa? Some shiftless loaf about who won't work his own farm?" The boy's eyes went wide, the whites of them showing all around, and he tucked his lips inside his mouth like a coward. Roscoe put his hands on Gerald's arms and lifted him away from his mother. Marie grabbed hold of Gerald's shirt, but Roscoe had a firm grip. He held the boy in front of his face, squeezing his upper arms. He whispered, "I'm smarter than you'll ever be." Then Marie had appeared again in his vision, clawing at his arm and his face, screaming at Roscoe to stop, and he did. He dropped their son at his wife's feet and slammed himself out the front door to walk the ugly fields to the power lines he loved. A farm was no place for an electrician. He'd said it enough times, and he'd wallowed away the past year, tinkering with an old mechanical thresher and reading in his late father-in-law's library. Every day, Marie asked him what he was going to do, and every day he said, "Anything but work this goddamn farm." "You came," she replied. "You didn't have to." Her resentment was as strong as his, stronger even, with what he'd just done. The boy's arms would be bruised. Roscoe stood under the nearest of the power lines. The air was darkening around him, and the cicadas had started their crying, wiry and metallic. If Marie's father hadn't died, Roscoe would still be working in the powerhouse back at Lock 12. They'd be living in the village, and he would be doing the work he loved. Roscoe had a letter from his old foreman. His job was open for him, should he wish to come back. He was considering exactly that option when the idea for the transformers came, a vision before him. 2 or 3 of them, perched on a freshly raised pole, linked up to new lines he'd twist himself. He saw light fixtures in the farmhouse, the kitchen appliances Marie had loved back in the village, and he saw the farm saved. Surely, electricity had the power to do that. Exhaustion finally sent him back toward the house, and in the midst of the cornfield, he recognized exactly how electricity could save Marie's land. He would electrify that damn thresher. Wasn't that what he was already trying to do? And he'd have that great machine do the work of the men Marie hired every season with money they didn't have. The thresher would run for free on their pirated power, and the farm would see a profit, as it had only in the legends of Marie's childhood. He chewed on the idea for a month before taking it to Wilson. Well, like I said, that was just a first little bit of Work Like Any Other by Virginia Reeves. I've mentioned before, I highly recommend it. I thought this was a beautiful book. It's powerful, and it's not a very taxing read, but it is heavy and it's lovely. Again, email me at booksforuspod@gmail.com if you're interested. Like always, the first person who mentions their interest in an email will be eligible for receiving my copy in the mail. There are a few rules, i.e. don't sell a book when you're done. Wow, still thinking like Work Like Any Other. But aside from that, thank you so much for listening. Like and subscribe if you can. Thanks for listening to Books for Us. I love you all, and it truly means so much that you spent your time with me today. See you later. Thank you.